Ulag-based charts of lunar months. 12. Marriage. Nikah. In Islam, to have a nikah means to get married, and tatlik means to divorce. In the book Manhaj al-Ibad, the Islamic nikah is explained as follows. The 7th chapter of this book covers the etiquettes of nikah. The information on marriage sometimes varies because people, times and situations are not always the same. For this reason, while there are nas, ayats and hadiths, and abar, reports, narrations, encouraging marriage, there are also others favoring bachelorhood. The times and states of the Ashab el-Kiram and Tabi'in demonstrate that in their time it was best to get married. There were 3 reasons for this. The first reason, during the time of Hadrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Christianity was prevalent throughout the world. Since Isa alaihi salam was equipped with spirituality, bachelorhood, being alone and leading a solitary life in seclusion were more appropriate for the times and conditions of his ummah and for his companions. Priests were ordering everyone to become monks and to lead a solitary life. They presumed that approaching Allahu Ta'ala and being in His way could only be achieved by living alone and by not getting married. Hadrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam possessed all spiritual and material realities and superiorities. Hence, being alone or being together with others, being single or getting married are all useful for his ashab and for his ummah. Therefore, both ways are appropriate for his ummah, the moderate way being preferable. Since priests were ordering everyone to live like monks and to abstain from marriage, the Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in order to terminate this way of life, prohibited his ashab companions to live a bachelor life by saying, Islam does not contain monkhood. He also said in another hadith, getting married is my sunnat. Whoever does not follow my sunnat is not one of my ummah. Numerous similar hadiths annihilated the wrong ideas imposed on the minds of people. Also, the thought of Allahu Ta'ala can only be approached by living like a monk was removed from the hearts. People who lived during the first 200 years, which was the time of the Ashab el-Kiram and the Tabi'in, Allahu Ta'ala alayhim ajma'in, knew that these hadiths were said in order to refute the wrong allegations of priests. When this era was over, different hadith-i-sharifs were emphasized. These hadiths informed us that there are good aspects to bachelorhood and to married life depending on the special situations of those involved. Rasul alaihi salam said, after 200 years, the best of you is the one who is hafifulus. When he was asked the meaning of hafifulus, he said, the person who has no wife or child. Great scholars like Bishr al-Hafi, Bayazid al-Bistami and Abul Hussein Nuri were all bachelors. This hadith-i-sharif reveals the honor and superiority of these great scholars and those like them who lived 200 years after the Hijrat. The second reason, the Ashab el-Kiram, Tabi'in and Taba al-Tabi'in lived in the best of times, thus their belief, iman, patience, sabr, asceticism, zuhd, and tawakkul were very strong and valuable. The following hadith-i-sharif praises them by saying, the best of times is my era. Then the time which is next to mine. Then the Muslims of the era next to them. Following these, lying will become a widespread practice. Some people will bear false witness even without being asked to do so. The nafs of these great personalities would not attach themselves to the means which the Sharia disliked and would not incline to earn through ways of haram because they increased their tawakkul, zuhd, and rida, consent by being close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and by attending his sohbat. However, later generations could not be like them. The third reason, Hadrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knew through the newer light of prophethood and through the correct firzat intuition that the religion of Islam would be spread throughout the world by the Ashab al-Kiram, Tabi'in and Taba al-Tabi'in, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. He encouraged marriage so that those who would spread the religion of Islam throughout the world, and those with whom the Islamic religion would be strengthened, would multiply. For these three reasons, marriage was necessary during the time of the Ashab al-Kiram, Tabi'in and Taba al-Tabi'in, alayhim ridwan. It was also proper to be single for people who came after them. Therefore, when Sufyan al-Thawri rahmatullahu alayh heard the above-mentioned hadith, he said, "Wallah, it is halal to be single in this time." When they asked Bishr al-Hafi the reason for his being unmarried, he answered, "I have such a nafs that firstly I am trying to divorce it. How can I add another one to it? Today likelihood of earning through ways of halal has decreased. It is now very difficult to protect oneself from the harams. It is neither suitable for the aql wisdom nor for the din religion to drag someone else into harams. Nevertheless, if one's lust becomes uncontrollable, one should try to reduce its intensity by fasting. If one cannot decrease its strength by fasting, then marriage becomes obligatory fard for him. If one is afraid of being cruel to one's wife, it will be haram makruh for one to get married. Also, people who are in danger of being deceived and led to harams by their nafs when they are among lowly women who do not cover themselves and who expose their private parts to men, should get married. It becomes fard obligatory for this type of person to find a chaste Muslim girl and marry her. Youngsters who are not desperate such as the above-mentioned people for marriage, first they should strive hard to obtain knowledge and good morals. Then they should learn the knowledge which pertains to the menstruation period of women, Hays, and the knowledge which covers the time that is right after the birth of a child, Nifas, and then they should get married. The appropriate time for marriage for a Muslim man is when he learns the Sharia, and when he trains his nafs on how to obey the Sharia, and when he acquires good moral conduct and becomes a nice-tempered person, and also when he improves his wisdom. After fulfilling all these conditions, he should marry a girl who has manners, modesty, and good moral conduct, sufficient Islamic knowledge, and who is obedient to the Sharia and who covers herself compatibly with the Sharia when she goes out. One should look for a girl who has chastity and who cares for her religion. One should not hold wealth or beauty as a prerequisite. One also should not overlook the chastity and goodness of a woman for the sake of money or beauty. In a hadith Sharif, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "One marries a woman either for her money or for her beauty or for her religion, her piety. You choose the one who is religious. A person who marries because of her money will not be able to possess her money. A person who only marries for her beauty will be deprived of her beauty." It would be the ideal if one can find a girl who is beautiful and pious. It is not permissible for a Muslim girl to marry a man who is a disbeliever. When she intends to marry him, she becomes an apostate. In fact, two disbelievers will have been married. They both should become Muslims and renew their nikah. Seeing the girl before the nikah is a sunnat. Also, it will facilitate a good relationship between the mates during marriage. One should search for a salihah, pious woman who has good manners, who has a noble ancestry, and who is also fertile. There is a saying which states that a man should avoid 4 types of women. 1. A divorced woman who lived comfortably with her former husband and now is longing for those days and recollecting them. 2. One should not marry a girl with brags about her money, rank, or father. 3. One should not marry a girl who will distribute her husband's property among her own relatives or acquaintances. For one should avoid marrying to a woman who has the reputation of being immodest and who would cause scandals. A hadith I-Sharif which states, "Do not smell roses that grow on a dunghills," commands us not to marry a base and immoral person. A young man married a girl in Bukhara, a city in Central Asia. The first night the bride asked the groom if he had learned the knowledge of Hay's menstruation. The young man answered in the negative. The bride then said, "Allahu Ta'ala orders, protect yourself and those under your command from hellfire. How can an ignorant man protect them?" The young man liked her statement so much that he entrusted his bride to Allahu Ta'ala and departed to study. He studied at MARW for 15 years. He also studied under Imam al-Muhammad Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayh. He then memorized everything in 6 years and came back to his wife as an alim scholar. His teacher named him as Abu Hafs al-Kabir Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayh. A person who desires to get married should perform istihara several times. Then, he should trust himself to Allahu Ta'ala and ask his help to protect him from being interfered with and deceived by his nafs and by base people. One should strive to perform the nikah in agreement with the 4 madhabs. For making a valid and correct nikah according to Shafi'i, Hanbali and Maliki madhabs, the first condition is that the wali of the girl has to give permission to her even if she is beyond the age of puberty. Friend is the lexical meaning for the word wali. If it is used in the subject of aqaid, belief, it means rifi-billah. If it is used in the subject of fiqh, then it means a grown-up male relative. According to these 3 madhabs, the wali is one's father. If you do not have a father, then the wali is your father's father, and after that the wali is your paternal great-grandfather. If you do not have paternal fathers, then your wali is your brother. If you do not have a brother either, then the wali is your brother's son, next to whom is his son. If you do not have any of these, then your wali is your uncle. If you do not have that one either, then the wali is your uncle's son and after that your uncle's grandson. If you do not have any of these relatives, then your wali will be the judge. The judge has to be a person who obeys the Sharia and who leads a life agreeable with the laws of Allahu Ta'ala. The order of being a wali in matters of marriage is the same as its order in matters of inheritance after death. However, according to the Safi'i madhab, the son and son's son cannot be a wali. According to Imam al-Muhammad and Hanbali madhab, after the paternal father's the son, and then the son's son will become a wali. According to the Shaykhain, Imam Azam and Imam Abu Yusuf, the son and the son's son will become the wali before the paternal fathers. In Hanafi madhab, the consent of a wali is not a must condition for the marriage of a girl who has exceeded the age of puberty. It is mustahab before the nikah to ask for the permission of a girl who has passed the age of puberty. The person to whom she gives her permission becomes her wakil. If the nikah is performed without her permission, she is free to accept or to reject it. If she rejects it, the nikah becomes void. A woman can get married either by herself or by her wakil or by her wali. In Hanafi madhab, orphans who do not have male walis can get married through their mothers. The second condition of nikah, it is necessary in Hanafi madhab to have 2 Muslim witnesses even if they are known to be sinners while making an offer and acceptance. 2 Muslim men or 1 Muslim man and 2 Muslim women who have already reached the age of puberty should be ready at that moment and they should hear the offer and the acceptance. In Shafi'i and Hanbali madhabs, witnesses must be males and they should not have publicly known sins. In Hanafi madhab, beside the wakil or the wali, 1 man and 2 women can also be witnesses. In Maliki Madhab, a witness is not necessary, but the wali must be present at the nikah, and the nikah must be announced, and acquaintances must be informed about the nikah. The third condition of nikah, this condition covers the offer and its acceptance. In other words, a contract of marriage should be made. In Shafi'i and Hanbali madhabs, the marriage contract is agreed upon between two men. One of the two men is the groom or his wakil, and the other one is the bride's wali or wakil. They make a marriage contract by saying such words as nikah, husband or wife, or by saying similar words that are used for this purpose. In these two madhabs, if the bride is not a virgin, then her permission also is needed. It is written in the book NIKΑH. In Hanafi madhab, a woman and a man who are free and beyond the age of puberty can get married by themselves in the presence of two witnesses. Their nikah can also be performed in the presence of one of them and by the wakil of the other party, or by the wakils of both parties. The wakil has to be a wise Muslim with an ability to distinguish right from wrong, but need not to be a male or be at the age of puberty. When one appoints someone as one's wakil, one does not need any witnesses. For this, first the wife gives her proxy, we call it, for renewing the nikah on her behalf to her husband by saying, "Whenever you divorce me, I have authorized you as my wakil to marry me to yourself." And then if the husband accepts her proxy, when he divorces her with one bain talaq 39, he says, "I have married so-and-so," saying the name of his wife, "to myself, whom I divorced earlier," in the presence of two witnesses. His nikah becomes sahih again. The famous renewal of the Ayman and nikah of the whole jama'ah by the recitation of a dua prayer by the individuals who make up the jama'ah is based on this fatwa. When both the person and his wakil are present during the nikah, the wakil becomes a witness. Likewise, when the bride and her wali are both present at the nikah, her wali becomes a witness. When a father marries his daughter to someone in her absence without informing her and without a mahr and tells her later on about it, if she stays silent, the nikah becomes sahih and it is necessary to give her a mahr al-mithal. A person can be a wali or wakil of both parties, or one can be a wali for one party and a wakil for the other party, or one can take one's own place as one of the parties and also can be the wali or wakil of the other party. If a person who has appointed someone as a wakil says that her wakil is free to do anything and everything on her behalf, then the wakil can appoint someone else as the wakil. A child who has not reached the age of puberty can be married by her closest wali. The wali for the child is her asabas, relatives, in accordance with the earlier mentioned sequence. If there is no asaba, then the mother will become the wali. If someone who is not a wakil, for example, one of the walis of a boy or a girl who is at the age of puberty, or a stranger, marries her to someone whom they do not know and tells her later on, if she does not refuse it when she hears it, then the nikah becomes sahih. When the child reaches the age of puberty, she can refuse the nikah which was performed by her wali other than her father and father's father. In Hanafi madhab, it is not obligatory to say the words tazwij or nikah as the nikah is performed. A nikah will also become sahih by such expressions as "I have given you as a present or gift," "I have given you as a charity," "I have sold," "I have bought." If both parties use these types of expressions, then they have to use the perfect tense of the verbs, that is, the tense that shows that the action has been done. If one party says it in the imperative form and the other party uses the perfect tense, the nikah will also be sahih. A wali can marry a small girl who is under the age of puberty to her kufw, her equal in rank or social status. In the other three madhabs, only the father can give in marriage his daughter who is a virgin and over the age of puberty. She does not have to be under the age of puberty for being given in marriage by her father. It is written in the book Mizan al-Kubri, in Shafi'i and Hanbali madhabs the wali has to be present during the nikah, otherwise the nikah will not be sahih. A woman cannot be a wali. In Hanafi madhab, a woman can get married without a wali and can appoint someone her deputy, yet if a woman marries someone who is not her kufw, her wali can interfere and stop the marriage. In Maliki madhab, if a woman is one of the notables of the town and is rich, then her wali has to be present at the nikah. If a woman is not one of the notables of the town and is not rich, then she can get married throughout her waql. In Shafi'i and Hanbali madhabs, a fasik, sinner, cannot be a wali, but in Hanafi and Maliki madhabs, a fasik also can be a wali. In Shafi'i madhab, if a closer wali is a safari distance away, around 108 kilometers, then a farther wali can give her in marriage. A farther wali is one who is later in the sequence of being a wali. In the other three madhabs, a farther wali cannot give her in marriage. In Hanafi and Maliki madhabs, if nobody knows the whereabouts of the closer wali, then her brother can give her in marriage to someone, but in Shafi'i madhab he cannot give her in marriage. In Shafi'i madhab, the father and the father's father can force her to marry a choice of theirs. In the Maliki and Hanbali madhabs, only her father can marry her to someone of his own choice, but not by force. In Hanafi madhab, a girl who is above the age of puberty cannot be given in marriage by anyone without her consent. In the other three madhabs, a girl who is under the age of puberty cannot be given in marriage by anyone except her father. In Hanafi, all Asaba's paternal relatives can give her in marriage, but she can refuse the marriage when she reaches the age of puberty. In Hanafi and Maliki madhabs, her wali can marry her to himself. In the Hanbali madhab, a wali can marry her to himself throughout his waql. In Shafi'i madhab, he cannot even marry her throughout his waql. In the three madhabs, when a woman and her walis permit, she can marry someone other than her kufw, but in Hanbali madhab she cannot marry someone other than her kufw. In Shafi'i and Maliki madhabs, a wali cannot marry her to someone who is not her kufw with his own desire. In Hanafi madhab he can do that. In Shafi'i madhab, kufw is obligatory in lineage, crafts, religion, flawlessness, and freedom. In Maliki madhab, kufw is necessary only in religion. In Hanafi madhab, kufw applies to religion, lineage, and property. In all the four madhabs, the first condition is for the man to be a Muslim and the woman not to be polytheist. In Hanafi madhab, a woman who is married to someone who is not her kufw can be separated by her walis. In the other three madhabs, if her walis do not give their permission, the nikah will not be sahih anyway. In the Maliki madhab, a woman who wants to get married to someone of her kufw with a mar which is less than the mar al-mithal can be stopped by her walis. According to the other imams, her walis cannot stop her from such a marriage. In the three madhabs, a nikah which is performed by a farther wali in the presence of a closer wali will not be sahih, but in Maliki madhab only the nikah of a virgin girl which is performed by a farther wali in the presence of her father will not be sahih. If a man states that so-and-so, name of the woman, is my wife, and she confirms him, their marriage will be valid according to three madhabs. In the Maliki madhab, however, their nikah will not be valid. In three madhabs, a nikah performed without witnesses will not be sahih. If it is done in the presence of witnesses, it is permissible to keep it a secret. In Maliki Madhab, the nikah will be sahih, but it has to be announced among the acquaintances. In the Shafi'i and Hanbali madhabs, the two witnesses who are necessary for the nikah have to be known by the community as men of integrity. In the Hanafi madhab, the nikah will be sahih also through the testimony of one man and two fasik, sinful women. In the other three madhabs, when a Muslim man marries a Zimmi woman, the two witnesses have to be Muslims. In the Hanafi madhab, the two witnesses can be Zimmis. Conversation between the parties is a sunnah during the nikah. In Shafi'i and Hanbali madhabs, it is a must condition to say the word tazwij or nikah. In Hanafi madhab, a nikah will be sahih by saying any kinds of words expressing possession. This matter in Maliki madhab is similar to that in Hanafi, but the mar has to be mentioned. If one says, "I have married my daughter to so-and-so," name of the person, and that person hears this statement and says that he has accepted the nikah, according to all alims, scholars, the nikah will not be sahih. According to Abu Yusuf, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, it will be sahih. In Shafi'i madhab, if one says, "I have married my daughter to you," and that man says, "I have accepted it," the nikah will not be sahih. He has to say, "I have accepted her nikah," or her tazwij, but according to Hanafi, Hanbali, and other criteria in the Shafi'i, rahmatullahi alayh, the nikah will be sahih. Imams, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi majma'in, of three madhabs said that it would be jaiz, permissible, to marry a disbelieving woman with a holy book by accepting her from her wali, but in Hanbali madhab it is not jaiz. When a man marries a woman on condition that he will not marry another woman besides her, or that he will not take her somewhere else in the future, according to the three madhabs his nikah will be sahih and it is not necessary for him to keep his promise, yet in this case he will have to pay her the mar al-mithal. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, said that the man will have to keep his promise. If the man does not keep his promise, the woman can dissolve the marriage. When a father wants to get married, it is not obligatory for his son to marry him. That is to help him marry a woman in Hanafi and Maliki madhabs. It is advisable to help one's father get married. In Shafi'i and Hanbali madhabs, the son has to marry his father, that is, to help him get married. In the Hanafi madhab, a woman can dissolve the marriage if the man is incapable of the sexual act. In the other three madhabs, she can dissolve the marriage if the man has any kind of deficiency. If these deficiencies occur after the nikah, she can still dissolve the marriage. If there is a deficiency in the woman, according to Hanbali and one fatwa in Shafi'i, the man can dissolve the marriage. According to Maliki and another fatwa in Shafi'i, he cannot dissolve the marriage. Translation from the book Mizan al-Kubra ends here. Kusamat means to file a complaint against someone. A woman who does not have any defect can apply to the court to dissolve the marriage if she finds out that her husband is in, even if a long time passes after their marriage. If the man denies it, the judge sends the woman to an obstetrician to be examined. If the doctor says that the woman is virginal, 1 year later that examination is performed again. If she is found out to be virginal again, the judge separates them. In this state of separation, the exact mar and iddat are obligatory. Though the woman will lose her right of kusamat after one sexual intercourse, it is sinful not to have any more sexual intercourse. Inan is a man who is incapable of having sexual intercourse because of old age, or having trouble with his genital organ or magic. They cannot apply to the court to dissolve the marriage for any other reason. It is written in the book Ibn al-Abidin and in the fatwas of Haniya, Tatarhaniya and Abilays that a nikah is not sahih if it is made dependent on a condition to be fulfilled beforehand. A good example for this is to say, I have married you provided that my father gives his consent. It is written in the book Ibn Abidin at the end of the chapter of Maharamat that if she says, I have married you if my father consents to it, and if her father is present there and says that he has consented to it, then that nikah will become sahih. Another example of a conditional case is explained in the books Ibn Abidin, Kitab al-Fiqh al-Madahi bil-Arba'a and Nimat al-Islam. While explaining the performance of a nikah, the authors of these books say that if a woman says to a man, I am getting married to you on condition that I will be able to divorce you whenever I choose to, and if the man states that he accepts her condition, then the nikah will be sahih and she will also hold the right to divorce him. If a woman who does not have a husband or a mahram wants to go on a long journey, such as on Hajj, or if Hajj has become necessary, she can get married to someone by the above explained conditional manner. It is seen from these examples that Islam's criticizers who say that in Islam only men hold the right to divorce or who say that women are like playthings in the hands of men are quite wrong. They do not know anything about Islam. These liars and slanderers with their false criticisms and allegations are estranging youngsters from Islam. The quotation given above shows clearly that a man can transfer the right to divorce to his wife at the time of the marriage contract, and as a consequence of this, she can get a divorce whenever she desires. Look up the word tafwid at the end of the chapter about talaq for further information. 40. During the contract of marriage, if one offers a fasid, an acceptable, wrong, condition to be satisfied, the nikah will be sahih, but the condition will not be carried out. For example, if one says, I have married you on condition of not giving a mahr to you, the nikah will be sahih, but the condition will be invalid and it will be necessary to give her mahr al-mithal. Mahr, Kitab al-Fiqh al-Madahi bil-Arba'a states, the mahr comprises things like gold, silver, banknotes, or any kind of property or any kind of benefit that is given by a man who wants to get married to the prospective bride. There are two types of mahr. Paying the first type of mahr becomes wajib immediately after the nikah is performed and half or all of it is liable to lapse. This type of mahr is termed mahr-i-muajjal. The amount of the second type of mahr is determined while performing the nikah, but it will be wajib to pay after one of the three things happens, and it is not abatable. This type of mahr is called mahr-i-muajjal. If neither type of mahr is specified during the nikah, the mahr-i-mithal has to be given later on. If one's wife does something which causes a separation such as being a renegade or causing her mat-i-musahara, the man never pays any amount of the mahr-i-muajjal. But if a man divorces his wife or if he does something which causes a separation, the man has to pay half of the mahr-i-muajjal and the other half lapses. Three things make giving the mahr-i-muajjal wajib. These three things are having sexual intercourse, being alone together, and the death of one of the partners. When any one of these three things occurs, the husband has to pay also the mahr-i-muajjal which he hasn't paid yet, and its amount cannot be decreased. Once a sexual intercourse has taken place or the wife and husband have stayed alone, the mahr has to be paid completely when the time determined during the nikah comes, or in case of separation. If the wife dies, the mahr is paid to her heirs. If the husband dies, the wife is paid from her husband's inheritance. Being alone with one's wife, which is legitimate, it is different from being alone with a non-mahram woman. This latter case is haram, forbidden. Being alone with one's wife is not deemed to have occurred if they are accompanied by anything that can prevent, either sentimentally, or canonically, or naturally, their having sexual intercourse. In cases such as when one of them becomes ill or wears ihram or is performing the namaz or fasting, or if the woman is in a period of menstruation or lakia, or if the couple is accompanied by a discreet child, the couple are not deemed canonically to have stayed alone together. The wife is free to give her mahr to her husband, or if he is dead, to her husband's heirs as a present. The wife's father does not have the right to give his daughter's mahr to his son-in-law as a present. It is written in the book Ibn Ibidin, the wife can transfer her creditor to her husband to be paid with the mahr which she has not been paid yet. She can donate her mahr to someone else as a present and assign him as her proxy to take her mahr from her husband. For the money to be taken from the debtor can be presented only to the debtor. For presenting it to someone else, that person must be assigned as proxy to take the money. It is written in the book Fatawa al-Hindiya that if during the process of nikah one only mentions the mahr but does not specify the amount of the mahr al-muajjal, a portion of the amount determined will become the mahr al-muajjal. This portion will be determined according to the customs and social status of the woman. The entire mahr will be muajjal if it is determined to be so in the contract for nikah. If the entire mahr is said to be mahr-i-muajjal and a certain date for payment is appointed, when the date of payment comes, the wife cannot refuse to have sexual intercourse for the purpose of getting her mahr. If the mahr will become a mahr-i-muajjal 1 year later, and if the husband sets the condition during the nikah that he will have sex with her before the payment of the mahr, it will be jaiz to have sex without paying. According to Imam Muhammad rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, even if he does not set the condition, the case will be the same. If he sets the condition that he will be allowed to have sex before paying the mahr-i-muajjal, it will be jaiz, permissible. If a portion of the mahr is mahr-i-muajjal and the other portion is mahr-i-muajjal, even if the sexual act has been performed with the consent of the wife can refuse to go on a journey with her husband, or she can refuse to have sex or halwat with him before the mahr al-muajjal is fully paid. During the process of nikah, it is unanimously jaiz to set a condition for the mahr-i-muajjal to be paid on a certain date. The date of payment is awaited in case of an earlier divorce. If the date of payment is not appointed, it is paid as soon as divorce takes place. In a ra'i divorce, when the wife comes back, the mahr does not become muajjal again. Whether small or old enough, when the girl who gets married is virginal, her father or grandfather or the qadi judge can take her mahr from the husband. No one else can take it. These people cannot take it, either, without the consent of the virgin who gets married. A hadith Sharif in the book Riyad an-Nasihin states, one who performs a nikah with the intention of not paying the mahr will be resurrected among thieves on the day of resurrection. It is valid to perform a nikah without mentioning the mahr, and even by setting the condition that no mahr will be paid, but in this latter case the condition is invalid. In this case, the husband will have to pay the mahr-i-mithal. It is paid as much as the amount her paternal female relatives were paid. If some of the mahr is mahr-i-muajjal, this is paid before having sexual intercourse or staying alone with her. If the whole mahr is mahr-i-muajjal, or if the words muajjal or muajjal were not mentioned during the process of the nikah, it will be wajib to pay it after having sex or staying alone with her, whenever one's wife asks for it, or, if she does not ask for it, when one of them dies. The heirs can take or give it, depending on which one of the parties is dead. The value of the mahr should not be less than 10 dirhams of silver. Today, silver money is not used. We use banknotes which are equivalent to gold. So, it should not be less than 10 dirham, that is 1 mithqal of gold. 1 mithqal is 5 grams, that is 2/3 of a gold coin, which is the equivalent of 7 mithqal of silver. The Persian book Jawahir al-Fiqh states that the mahr should not be less than 1 gold coin. It is understood that in those days 1 gold coin weighed 1 mithqal. If the mahr is less than the above-mentioned amount, it still must be paid as much as 2/3 of a gold coin, or some other property equal to this value. A wife can refuse the wedding party or halwat or a journey with the husband before she is paid her mahr-i-muajjal. If she refuses these things, her husband cannot refuse to supply her daily necessities of life. If the whole mahr is muadil, it can be delayed, will be paid later. The wife cannot refuse them, even if she has not yet been paid. She can also leave the house with one of her mahram relatives if she is not paid her mahr al-muajjal. If a wife, after receiving 10 gold coins as her mahr, gives them back as a gift to her husband, but does not say, "I have given them as a present to you," and later the husband divorces her before halwat, then it becomes necessary for her to pay him 5 other gold coins. Since the gold cannot be made ta'ayyin through ta'yin, the woman will not have given her mahr back to her husband by handing those 10 gold coins to him. Because the divorce took place before the halwat and because half of the mahr belongs to the woman by rights, she has to give the other half of it back to the man. If she had not received her mahr from her husband and said that she had made it halal for him, or if the mahr had been property other than gold, and if she had given the property back to her husband as a gift and then the divorce had happened, in these cases, it would not have been obligatory for her to give anything to the man. For, when she gives back the property which becomes ta'ayyin after ta'yin, the woman will not have been supposed to have received the mahr. Let us repeat once again that appointing the mahr during the process of a nikah is not a must condition for its being sahih. If a man who is ignorant in religion alleges in Islam, man has to pay mahr to a girl so that he can marry her. Consequently, a woman is something for sale like merchandise. He will have slandered the Islamic religion. The mahr in Islam is not for getting married, but it is for facilitating a happy and harmonical life after marriage. It also protects the woman's rights and freedom. It prevents her from being a plaything in the hands of ignorant and bad-tempered men. With the fear of paying the mahr to his wife and the maintenance for the children every month, a man cannot divorce his wife. Courts in countries where this fear does not exist is filled up with files for divorce. For this reason, it is better for girls to demand very little mahr from a man who knows and respects Islam's beautiful moral system and the value it attaches to women. Otherwise, it is advisable to demand a great amount. Women with whom nikah is not permissible. It is haram to marry 25 categories of women. They're called mahram persons. 18 out of the 25 types are eternally mahram. 7 women out of the 18 are ziram al-mahram, which means one's close relatives by blood and lineage. It is eternally haram to marry one's mother, one's mother's or father's mother, one's daughter, one's son's daughter, one's dad.